We call it the writer's bridge because a platform is a thing you stand up on and yell at people. And a bridge is a two-way street between your readers who need to hear what you have to say and you who have something to hear. So that's why we call it the writer's bridge. Coming up, Ashley's book is on pre-order. I'm sure you guys have seen that on social media. She's getting great reviews. If you have had a chance to read it or listen to the audiobook, please take a moment and review it. And I am co-teaching with Dinty W. Moore a writing and publishing and craft intensive in May. That is a 5-day virtual retreat. And I'd love to see some of you there. It's at rebirthyourbook.com. We will cover a lot. As always, plan to watch this video again because you will get the replay link tomorrow, and we always cover more than it is easy to process, especially today because we have the wonderful Dusti Arab with us. We are going to introduce her in just a moment, but first, our questions of the week. We don't always get to every question, but next week is going to be Ask Us Anything, so keep submitting those questions of the week. We have 2 questions first that are pretty much the same question. Anne asks, my first book, a children's book, is coming out April 27th. What creative ways can I use to keep up interest in the same book? How do I create my identity as an author when I have just one published work? And Stephanie asks, how can I start building my platform before my work in progress is ready to share? So Ashley, what do we do before we've got stuff? How do we build an author and not a book?
Well, we want to figure out who is already doing something online that is similar to what we aspire to do. Get into those comp accounts, start watching the conversations, see what your target audience cares about. You're not there to steal the show. You're not there to get a follow back from your comp author, that, best-selling memoirist. You're there to figure out what gaps are in their current umbrella of support that they're offering their audience that you can fill with your unique experience. I've told you guys this before. When I came from figure skating to writing, I followed about 200 authors who were represented by my top agents, and I had all of them on, I had notifications on for all of them. And I spent months just diving into those conversations as soon as things were posted on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram to see what do people care about and what do they jump to respond to when these other writers have something to say.
And this is a way to build genuine connections with your audience, as well as finding out what your audience needs and how your work fills that need. We also suggest you think about the idea of content buckets, and we talk about those in episode 3, episode 9, and episode 15, if you are looking through the Google Doc. Your content buckets are the topics that you can regularly post about. So for Stephanie Weaver, it's recipes and the stories behind them. For Brooke, I don't know how to say your last name, so I'm going to go with Knisley, and we're just going to mangle it as badly as possible, Brooke. So Brooke Nicely is doing this wonderful series on how she looks like bizarre different characters, because one of Brooke's buckets is bizarre content. And part of who she's attracting is people who are into the weird, the freaky, the bizarre. Jessica Henry, really into justice and the justice system. And so that's her content bucket. Basically, you want to be writing and sharing about what you care about that hopefully is also reflected in your book.
So
Ricky, sorry, go ahead, Ashley.
Yeah, Ricky has a question in the chat. What are comp accounts? So you know how when we're writing a proposal or we are writing a query letter, we think about our comp authors or our comp titles, the books that we would love to be shelved next to based on the genre, the subject matter, and even the style of writing sometimes. Here on the Writer's Bridge, we've taken that to the next level. Who on social media is reaching an audience who you would like to reach? So there's some crossover. Some of my comp accounts, like Glennon Doyle is one of my comp authors. Also, there are some body positivity and sex positivity accounts that are my comp accounts, even though they haven't written books. So taking a look at who is doing online and reaching an audience online that you would like to reach. Those are your comp accounts.
And Emily asks in the chat, what if your comp titles don't have much in the way of social media engagement? Remember, a lot of platform for authors has nothing to do with social media. We use social media because it is a way that costs only your time to directly reach and speak to readers in their homes on the platforms on which they like to engage. A lot of author platform is publishing work in other places, maybe teaching classes or being a part of webinars, speaking on panels, interviewing other writers. So remember, you look at where your comp authors are interacting. Are they teaching? Are they speaking at conferences? What else are they doing? And you can do that as well.
Sometimes social media is just the place to find out what your author is doing offline. You know, you'll see that they're doing a book event, or they're on a panel, or they're doing a reading with other writers. Sometimes it's just to figure out what is going on in their calendar, even though they may not be on there posting regularly and having conversations.
Exactly. So I want to make sure that we have plenty of time to actually introduce Dusti. So Ashley, will you introduce our wonderful guest today, Dusti Arab from the Reinvention Company?
Yes, Dusti may be familiar to a lot of you who are in the binders building platform. She has jumped in with stellar information at the perfect time to help us as a community. And Allison and I learned so much from her. She is a marketing guru and content strategist for startups and for writers. She helps people build courses, build websites, really does all of the things that we want done if we want to focus on writing. Right, Dusti?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Over to you.
Over to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that intro. Team, I am going to tell you right now, I am going to go through a lot of content in the next little bit here. So like they said, this is going to be one that you're probably going to want to replay because there are a lot of questions here and you're probably not going to be able to get them all at once. So I do want to preface with that. So I'm here to talk to you guys today about how to create a lot of content around your book in a really short period of time. So with that comes several different things. So first off, let's talk about what we need to do before we start trying to approach this monster, because there really is the business of writing, which, you know, is all of the things you do while you're writing your book, all of the skills you pick up in that. And then there is this other piece, which is the business of being a writer and all of the things that maybe you're feeling weird about. For those of you who social media is still intimidating for, hopefully we can take a little bit more of the sting out of that today and give you some additional options so that you don't feel like this has to take tons and tons of time, because it doesn't. Like, it really doesn't, I promise. That's my promise for you right here at the beginning. So let's set expectations. So first up, before we begin, let's talk about our themes. Content buckets. We're going right into this to start, because this really, honest to God, guys, is the most important thing that you could do. What are the main themes that you cover in your book? Like, what are the things that you're talking about all the time? Now, I want to encourage you to, like, I know you get to a point with your book, especially if it's already out. Like, if you've already got a book that's out, if you're like me at all, you're probably already bored with it. And you're bored with some of the content there. And it's so tempting for those of us who are just like monster content creators to move right on to the next thing. Like, press pause on that. However, including those things that are fresh for you can be a really great way to keep your audience engaged. So when you're coming up with these content buckets, yes, pull the ones that are the themes that you will return to again and again. Those little like golden threads that connect all of your work together, even when it may seem to you that they don't. Like, if you write nonfiction and fiction, you know, I know that there can be a lot of internal like angst around that for a lot of writers, but there doesn't have to be, because the reason you're drawn to those things probably has some connection points. See if you can find them. Next, if you have trouble identifying what your content buckets are because you're too in it, something that you can do, particularly if you're a verbal processor, that's me, have a friend interview you. Have a friend ask you about your book and just have them record it and then get a transcript made. And if you want free transcripts made, use otter.ai. This is a really great way. They do like up to 6 hours free a month. And then if you do a lot of interviews, it's easily the best transcription software out there. This is another hot tip for creating more content way faster, because especially if you're talking to somebody else, you're not going to be as stiff as if you're just like trying to talk into, like, if you're just trying to talk to the camera when you're solo, like it's hard. It's a practice skill. So it's one of those things. If you have somebody who you can get on like this, you can absolutely go up there, have this conversation with them, and then go back and look at all the super smart things you actually said when you weren't paying attention. Okay, so next thing, let's talk about defining our goals. So, I mean, with a book, it's a very, it feels like a pretty clear thing. Like, how many books do you want to sell? Like, how many books do you want to sell? How many books are you okay with selling? What we call this is like defining our levels of success. So a mentor of mine, Charlie Gilkey, wrote a book called Start Finishing. And he talks about right sizing our projects. And what that means basically is like, what does good enough look like? What would be an epic success? That's like, your New York Times bestseller, things that you can't necessarily control. But when we're looking at the things that we can control, what does like good, better, best look like? And figuring out what those numbers are means that we can start to work backwards and figure out exactly what that is going to require based on our current platform, based on the amount of time that we have. And that's something else we'll talk about here in a second. And, just making sure that we feel really good about the amount of time and attention that, our book baby is getting, because it's so easy to just sink all of this time in this project and then it's done. Well, except it's not, because publishers don't actually pay for your marketing, not really. So getting good at this, it is an entirely different skill set. But once you get it going, it starts to sustain itself. So as you are beginning to think about your content buckets, this is where we start to take those things and move into the concept of batching your content. So content batching is exactly what it sounds like, doing a lot of it at once so that you can just pre-schedule it and not have to do it later. Here's the other thing with batching. You can make one piece of content go so much farther. I work exclusively with brilliant women with massive bodies of work. So they have so much content that isn't making them money, is just sitting on a hard drive, not being used, could be a freebie for their book to incentivize early pre-launch purchases. I don't know, we've got lots of options here. But starting to think about how you can make your content work a little bit harder for you is going to save you a lot of time. It's really easy for us to forget when things are no longer fresh for us that we have new people coming to us all the time. And they're not oriented with the things that we talk about all the time, which means you can totally repost the same stuff, just barely edited, over and over and over again. One way that I would encourage you to do this is, as far as social media platforms, we're going to talk about a handful of different things. But for me, my bread and butter is Facebook. I make all my money on Facebook, just authentically connecting with folks, giving away, whatever I have that I feel like is valuable for people at the time, things I'm being asked for, in the platform script, being able to go in and answer people's tech questions, where if I already know I have a piece of content that I can just drop there, that makes that very easy, right? And then it's not a big, it's not a big demand on my time, but it's also something that's going to be really valuable to somebody else. And you never know where those things are going to lead later.
That's how you came on our radar in a big way to invite you to present here. You came in with great, well thought out information. And we could both tell by the way that you dropped it in the Facebook groups. It wasn't the first time you thought about these things or talked about these things. When you are paying attention online to what other people are doing, you see the gaps. And that's exactly what Dusti did. She was like, okay, yeah, Platform Binder, a lot of great things, but here are the little things that people are missing that I'm seeing repeatedly. And hey, I'm going to do a post that just says, hey guys, and what was it, 3 or 5 things, Dusti, on that big post you did? All so great. She dropped some links in there for different email services that were easier. And these are all think about in your own body of work, everybody here, when you see an issue come up in the memoirist binder or in, a group that, is really into restoring old cars, if that's one of your content buckets, you have that essay or you have that link, even if it's not yours and you're sharing somebody else's information, where to pull in the answers and then deliver it to the community.
Exactly. And to that effect, knowing where your stuff is really important, making sure you're keeping the stuff organized. So for me, one of the tools I use for that is Loom. That's how I do all those quick and easy, fun little tutorial videos. Loom is a great free tool, you guys. Like, this may not be super relevant for a lot of us as writers, but if you're ever trying to explain to your copy editor, for instance, why you hate something that they did, like let's say you hate a choice they made, and without ranting or writing a 10-page email, you want to demonstrate like, here's why I made the choices I made actually. It's a free Chrome extension and you can just record your screen and talk over it. So easy, totally free. And honestly, like for me, as someone who works with a lot of different clients, it's the fastest way for me to communicate information effectively, because you can show them a picture. And once you have the visual there, it just makes things easier, which is part of why we like quotes so much on Instagram. The extension is called Loom, Loom. Let me think really hard about that 4-letter word. All right, moving right along. So Facebook is where I had tons of content, right? So when I was starting to begin the process of writing my book, which has serious memoir components, one of the first things that I did was like, I know that I've written parts of this story before, and wouldn't it be really cool to have a lot of source material to pull from so I don't have to work so hard? If you have done any amount of marketing for your book at all, or you know that you have talked about themes like this from your book, a very easy thing that you can do, at least on Facebook, is go into your settings and your activity feed there, and you have access to every single post you have ever written. And so even if you can narrow it down to like a month of posts, it makes it really easy for you to go through and hit the save button on those so that you can say, these are all for the book, or, ooh, these are all great things that I could totally repurpose for my marketing. So reuse what you have. There's so many people who want to, they want to pursue whatever is most exciting in that moment. And yes, you should. And I will encourage you to do that because this is part of what keeps social media fun for us. And don't reinvent the wheel. Like if you have a minimum amount of time available for creating content, use what you already have over and over and over again. People won't get sick of it. They're only seeing like maybe a 1/10 of what you're actually posting anyway. So,
and that's what we always say, like 10% of your people will see your post, or each person who's following you will see about 10%. And I didn't know this trick, Dusti, for getting into the activities feed. I just like searched back manually. I spent 20 minutes doing it one day and I got 20 or 30 quote cards. Then I just took screenshots of Facebook status updates that were funny that I had written over the past year that then became quote cards on Instagram and Twitter. And my audience who thought it was funny before loved it again. The new audience members were like, damn, she makes good jokes about being a mom, because I'd been writing mostly about marriage stuff. So it is a good way to like go back to your old material and reuse. Like a stand-up comedian would never just do the same bit once, right? It gets better and better and better each time you do it.
And thinking about it like that, like a stand-up comedian, particularly if you have something like comedy integrated, seriously, if the joke landed, like you better use it like 10 more times. Because one of the things that can be really overwhelming is, first of all, if you're trying to do everything at once. So if you're overwhelmed by social media, are you trying right now to use too many platforms? Are you trying to do Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever? It's not going to work for you. It's not going to work for you. The best thing that you can do is pick one and stick to it. If you have one that you're already really comfortable with and you feel like you want to expand past that, that's a little bit different. Like a lot of content that I use on Facebook, I either will cross post on Instagram, or, if you're doing, like Ashley really is such a pro at this. Like, I'm just going to use her as an example, like over and over again for this, because she's doing everything right. So TikTok scares me. So I don't do that stuff. But she's managed to use it in a way that's not only really compelling for her audience, but it's opened up an entire new platform for her. Like people who don't necessarily hang out on Instagram, who are on TikTok. And that's huge. So she's making the content do double duty by reaching multiple audiences. She's playing with different formats, which keeps it fresh and interesting, regardless of the platform you're on. Like these are definitely all things that you can be thinking about as you're starting to decide, where do I feel most confident showing up? And for a lot of us, if we're writers, it's written, and that's totally acceptable. Will video get more engagement? Yes, but only if you're good at it. Like that's, and it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice to get good at these things. So like, as you are approaching, this business of being a writer, Think about where you want to sink your time. Where do you want to, what's interesting? What do you actually want to learn? So when we are beginning to look at all of these different options that we have available, think about where you already shine, what opportunities are available to you based on your network, given different platforms. Maybe you have a lot more engagement on Facebook than you do on Instagram, which is more or less the case for me right now, even as I'm working on growing that Instagram. And then think about, like, where would you like to expand that most? You know, where would you like to expand that most? So these are just a few more things to keep in mind.
Back up like just a second with that, Dusti, because I was getting way more engagement on Instagram for a while, probably for like a year or two, than I was on Facebook. And so I sort of let Facebook, you know, go dormant a little bit. I wasn't really posting anything there except in groups. I was super active in groups, but I wasn't posting anything on my feed. And then when I got to the place where my moving into pre-orders for my book, that's when I thought, okay, I need to just, like, you know, fluff and fold. I need to give this a little like wake up over here on Facebook land. And then I started just posting just like witty one-liners about my kids, or things like sort of things that I knew people would comment on to kind of wake up the algorithm and wake up my feed again. And now I'm cross-posting a lot of my posts from Instagram onto Facebook with good results, but it needed like a little wake up call first.
Oh, and that's a great point. Like, if you've left something dormant, that doesn't mean delete it. Like, don't delete it ever. Don't do it. I've made this mistake before with like nuking previous author pages when like a project didn't go the way I thought it was going to, or whatever. So let me be the first to like stand up and be like, I have made so many mistakes doing this over the years. Like, and it really, like, I've been at this 12 years now. So I've been on social media enough to have experienced a lot of the growing pains that you're probably experiencing right now as you're building up your following here. I did see somebody ask a compelling question there about whether to do this on your personal page or your author page. So you should have an author page just in case you ever decide you want to do ads, because you have to have at least 100 people on that page in order to run your ads. So it should be there. It can, like, you don't have to use it. Like, it really, like, it doesn't get engagement unless you're paying for stuff. Using like cross-posting onto your personal page is where you're going to get more of that like individual engagement. Like, that's just like with the way that they're pay to play platforms. So like what you see is what you get in a lot of those cases. So at a minimum with your author page, like as long as it's really clear on the top banner where they can buy your book, what they should do next, you're like, hey, I don't really hang out here, but if you add me over here or come find me on Instagram, you know, you can get connected in more places. So, all right. I'm going to loop back here real quick. So when we are thinking about social media and the kinds of content we're posting, let's think about it more like a magazine. So I know Instagram is like a hotspot for a lot of folks, and for good reason. It's still seeing a lot of growth, maybe not as much growth as some places, but it's a platform that we all feel, you know, more confident with, at least engaging with it, than maybe even Facebook. I find Facebook depressing from time to time if I'm scrolling. I do like, I joy scroll on Instagram. I doom scroll on Facebook. There's a big difference here. So when you're thinking about your feed as a magazine, you know, you want your 9 to look nice, which I don't do. Like, full disclosure, that is not something I spend time on. I focus more on my written content there than I do my imagery. And when I do really cleaned up posts, they don't perform as well for me. Like, my audience wants real and authentic. So you don't have to it doesn't have to be dressed up. Your top 9 doesn't have to be perfect. So don't put that pressure on yourself.
Pause here. So when Dusti's saying top 9, she's saying like the 3 rows of 3 on Instagram that will show first if somebody goes to your profile, goes to your Instagram profile. That's what she's talking about with the top 9.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley. It's like, I get jargony from time to time. Feel free to stop me. So with those first images that someone sees, you know, if you want it to look pretty, awesome. The tool that I use for that is totally different than all the 3 that were mentioned earlier. There are a million of these, but I use Planoly, which again is on the resources page. because you can do the drag and drop with the top 9, you can automate everything. You can also cross post to Facebook and Pinterest, which is something I do. I think Pinterest in particular is an underutilized platform for authors. You need different images that sized correctly for that platform, but I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that for those of you who really enjoy Pinterest, because it's underused by authors, period, right now.
And so, Pinterest ads are a place where some authors have been getting some success, either directing to their website or directing right to the sales page, whatever platform they're trying to sell from. Because when people are on Pinterest, they're looking for something, right? They're looking for inspiration, like that next quote or that next recipe or that next. So yeah, and even with just a few dollars a day, Pinterest can give you some more traffic. Allison?
The best, I don't really fully understand Pinterest, but the best description I've heard that makes me understand it the most is Pinterest is a search engine. It's just that what it brings you back is pictures. So that might be helpful.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, for the cost of advertising on Pinterest right now, you cannot beat it. Like, you cannot beat it, especially if you can fit really cleanly into the way that they divide up your search option. Advertising on Facebook and Instagram is incredibly complicated. Do not waste your money there unless you know what you are doing, because it's expensive and most people do it wrong. They just do. They don't get it. And because it changes, I swear to God, every 6 months, and it is exhausting to keep up with. Pinterest is like 3 pages, 2 clicks, and then you're done. So, and I'm pretty sure they're still running like a $50 promotion or something. Like, they'll match your first $50 that you do. So they've been really pushing that hard lately. How to use Pinterest. Oh man, that's like a whole other, I can't cover that here.
Well, you know what? Well, let's put that down on the schedule, Allison, for a Pinterest for authors, because I've already found that venturing into paid ads and promoted, boosted posts and all of that. Holy shit, it's making my head spin. I actually outsourced that, and you guys know I like to do a lot of it myself. Those numbers were making me crazy. So Pinterest is a way, like Dusti said, to simplify this, and a lot of writers in different groups are saying that they're getting some success there. So yes, Pinterest for authors will be a topic that we do coming up soon.
If you're thinking about like your Instagram in particular as a magazine, and you're trying to figure out what are your people coming to you for, like if you were a magazine, what would your kind of people who are reading your comp titles, what are they looking for? When we pick up a magazine, we're looking for a handful of different kinds of content. We like to learn things because we're humans. So educational content is one. Inspirational content. What is the stuff that like lights up your people? What is something that's going to make them go, oh, that's what I want? Aspirational content. That's what I want to be. That kind of content is the stuff that will hook people, particularly if you are in nonfiction. If you can create a really compelling aspirational image, whatever that looks like, and the image is less important than the feeling you're describing, that is definitely that's a way to win on Instagram. Last but not least, promotional content. You have to talk about your stuff. Like, you have to talk about your stuff. And I know a lot of people who are getting into social media don't feel really comfortable with sales yet, but the reality is you are in charge of selling your book. It is your responsibility before it is your publisher's or anyone else's, which means you are in sales. Learn to love it. There are lots of different ways you can approach it. But if you start with these 4 categories and start to think about your person and really the different things that they are looking for, that's a great place to start. So when you've got your content buckets up here, and then we've got these other things down here, these 4 kinds of content. So now we're getting down to more of a tangible level. So we should already have like some sweeping ideas of like, okay, so for this month, I know that I want to post 10 times, 10 posts that are like really good are way better than 30 that are kind of crappy. So less is more in this case. Put your boundaries down where they need to be. So once you get these general topics here, think about for you right now, what's topical? What's going on in the world around us? People are getting vaccinated right now. People are starting to reintegrate. How can I tie that into what I am writing about? It doesn't have to be that specifically. Obviously, take things in the media, the ship in the Suez Canal, everybody had a heyday with that because it was like, oh, ship stuck. real bad, you know, and there was nothing politically charged about it or anything else. So take what's happening in the media, if you can, if you want to, and turn that into fun content. What are you launching? What are you launching right now? When you are launching a book, particularly if it's already out and you're past the pre-order phase, what I want you to do is, instead of thinking about it as like this big thing, like, oh God, I haven't promoted my book in like months, whatever, start thinking about campaigns. Like, think about it as a campaign. So if I sold 1,000 books this first run, what's my next goal? To sell another 1,000. What's it going to take for me to sell another 1,000 books over the next quarter? By starting to give it little bitty timelines and deadlines, you can start to see how much effort is it actually going to take for me to do this? What am I going to need to do to get past my current audience? And whether that looks like PR, going on podcasts, whatever, that's less important here than you taking a look at what you're creating, what you're putting out, and what you're going to need to do to start filling those gaps. So last but not least, what is fresh for you right now? Ashley's astrology videos. How much fun are they? How much fun are the astrology videos? I watch freaking all of them because, like, even though it's not directly about her book, it's something fun, and everybody's into astrology right now. Like, it's just a hot topic. So like, why not make that part of like the thing that you're doing? Because it's something that you do for fun anyway. People really love getting to know authors. Like, knowing that you have this special connection, like with your author, like you both love this thing. That's awesome. That's a real valid connection point. That's one of those things where we start to develop relationships.
I can't tell you how many people are in my DMs being like, oh, I'm a Sag rising too. That's why I like you so much. Mm-hmm. You know, it's this sort of thing. Like, they want to find connection online, period. Right.
Right.
And any way they can be like, yeah, you and I are alike. They love that. So yeah, the astrology videos were a big hit. Thank you, Dusti.
That's awesome. Last but not least, I want to cover some different ideas for your different posts. So like, if we know we have, let's say we're doing a piece of aspirational content. Like, I really want my people to feel like, you know, for my stuff, I'm a self-help author. So I want people to feel like real change, like becoming braver, is accessible. I want that to feel real for them. So I'm going to talk about, you know, this particular thing that happened to me that was really hard. It's going to be a really vulnerable share. And like, because I feel comfortable doing that. Don't do this if you don't feel comfortable doing this. This is an example. But I'm going to take this vulnerable story and I'm going to share it. And then at the end of it, I'm going to introduce a flip. So when you're using a flip in your social media posts, you start talking about one thing that's about you. And then midway through, whatever the thing you realized was. So a recent example of this for me was, I had an experience with a client where I was on a medication change and I completely messed something up. Like, I built her platform or her site on the wrong platform. I've never done anything like this in my 10 years of running an agency. I've never made a mistake like this. And I know it happened because of the medication change. I didn't want to talk to her about it. So I just fixed it and I was like, screw it, we'll eat it. Like, we can rebuild the entire thing on the other platform in 2 days. It's fine. So I explained my mistake and then I took it to social media and I was like, hey guys, like, I know y'all think I got it all together all the time, but guess what? Like, here's the thing. The flip in there was that, oh, you know what? 5 years ago, even, this would have been a really horrible, painful experience for me. But that's not the case anymore. Now I've worked on myself enough. I have the capacity to actually go in and like, I'm okay. I've got this. My team has got my client. And I got more engagement on that post than anything I have in the last month, talking about a massive failure. So like, if you are willing to go deep with your people and put a flip on like a negative experience, that is a really, really powerful connection point. Another way that you can use that is if you're talking about something that you hate, something that you hate. So be careful with these ones, but talking about the things in your industry or around your book that piss you off, that's a really great place to just get on your soapbox and just go. use these sparingly, because otherwise you end up with a negative ranty rant and then you attract negative ranty people. So use them sparingly and only when you really mean it. On the other hand, what is something you really love? What's something you really love in your industry that you can add something additional on? So with these things, you can take personal stories or things you're experiencing and start to like use it as repurposed content. Like, you already lived it, you might as well write about it, right? That's why we're here. Last but not least, consider some more behind the scenes content. When we're talking about how we work, why we do the thing we do, showing people where you work. Like, if you're stuck at a kitchen table while your kids are doing like online school in the background right now, like, be real with your people. Like, you don't have to look buttoned up. People don't like people who look super buttoned up all the time. Like, making sure that you're being real with your people is an amazing way to start building relationships a little bit more authentically there. So,
and we talk a lot about moments, not things. And like what Dusty's talking about is like, you know, if you're taking a photo and there's your laptop and then there are the breakfast dishes and then there's Zoom and little kid scissors, you know, like it brings your audience into that feeling of overwhelm instead of, you know.
Kat says in the chat, I've opened up a couple of times about my infertility and multiple miscarriages, and those are the posts that have gotten me the most genuine engagement. It was scary as hell, but really cool to connect with people on a deeper level. And I think that is one of the most powerful things we can do with anything we write, whether it's social media, whether it's an essay, whether it's our actual book itself. The most powerful thing we can do is to be vulnerable in ways that are scary for us and even scarier for our readers. Because the great gift of memoir is reading a book and going, wow, I'm not the only person who feels this way. And I believe that our great moral obligation as writers is, if we are either privileged enough or brave enough or even unfortunate enough to have had an experience that will resonate with other people, writing is our obligation to help other people go through that same journey, either because they need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or because we've had an experience they're never going to be able to have and they need to experience it vicariously, or because we need to show them, hey, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and if you take my hand, we can get there. And that's so powerful. And so as much as you can, share the stuff that scares you, because it scares everybody else too.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. That's such a great final thought here. So my last thing for you guys is, like, it's okay to let this be fun. Like, honestly, like, we get to learn new things. We get to share our experiences with people thousands of miles away from us. Like, what kind of a gift is that? Like, for all of the social media stuff that happens that we don't love, there are so many opportunities for authentic engagement here. And that really is very, very special. The fact that we have the option even of connecting with our readers in this way, and not just through some big daddy publishing deal, like, that's very special. And it really is an opportunity for us to figure out how to show up as more authentic versions of ourselves.
And speaking of authentic engagement, one of the ways that we can genuinely connect with our fellow readers and our fellow writers is our traditional breakout rooms here at the Writer's Bridge. If you are here for the first time, breakout rooms always sound scary. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to talk to a stranger. But people always come out of them very happy to have had a moment to talk with another writer and talk about what you're doing. So we're going to send you into some breakout rooms. You're going to be there for about 7 or 8 minutes. Check in, find out what the other person is writing, see what else you guys can talk about, and share your social media with each other. And if you're feeling really brave, what's the thing that you're most scared about that you're going to try and share in your writing sometime in the next 6 months? Here you go, breakout room time. Yay. Hi, Lucy.
Hi. So for Pinterest, do we use hashtags? That is such a good question. Keywords are super important on Pinterest. They don't necessarily have to be hashtags, but keywords act as hashtags, saying like kitchen, reorganization, gluten-free, recipe, GF. You know, kids, kids, chores, play space, like things like that. You're welcome.
Can we talk about at some point? I just self-published a children's book, and boy, has it been a learning experience. Mainly because I didn't do it. I did it through a publishing company in Canada, which doesn't do anything like distribution, and it's not print on demand. And I now can't get a distributor to do it because things like Ingram or Ingram Spark will only do books that they print themselves.
Yep.
So if I want to go through Bookshop, you have to go through Ingram or Ingram Spark.
Did you go with Friesens or did you go with someone else?
Yeah, Friesen. Yeah.
But
do you have paper books? Do you have physical books?
I have
okay.
I have around 200. I had 250. I have around 225 now.
Okay, I'm going to say this with love in my heart. As far as physical books, you're fucked. And I say that with love in my heart. So what you're going to do with those physical books is when we can start going places and doing things again, you're going to arrange reading time at the public library and have books for sale. You're going to arrange reading time at your local independent bookstore and have books for sale. You're going to walk around and see if anybody has a little free library and put a copy of your book in there. And then you're going to upload a brand new copy of your book with a new ISBN to Ingram and Ingram Spark so that more people can buy it and you can share it in new places. And I am so sorry to bear this bad news to you because I'm actually dealing with a client right now who is publishing a memoir from India. And he's like, but here in India, we can print this book for $1 a copy in hardback. Why can't we just ship it to the bookstores in America? And it's like, nobody wants to deal with your paper books. It is possible to distribute through Amazon, but you have to set up as an Amazon seller. So
I'm in the process of doing that. So
that is your option for paper books.
And I got one distributor who does spiritual stuff because I've been going around to stores in Woodstock, and she gave me the name of this distributor who will deal with it, but it's very limited distribution. So you're saying I can do what to get a new ISBN number?
Okay, so you own your own ISBN, do you? Because you hired somebody else to print? Okay, so you will need a new ISBN number, but if you're Canadian, you can get a free ISBN.
I'm not Canadian. I live in Woodstock, New York.
Oh, okay, sorry. So you're going to get an ISBN number. You're going to need to go to Bowker, Bowker.
I'll pull it up.
Bowker charges a freaking fortune for 1 or 5 ISBNs, but if you think you're going to write more books, go ahead and buy 100 because it's much, much cheaper to just buy 100 of them.
I have a friend who has 100, so she gave me one.
Great. Then you're going to need one more ISBN that will be the copy of the book that you upload to Ingram. And to be perfectly honest, you may also want to upload this book to Amazon KDP, and they will give you an ISBN for there. But it is important to have both Ingram and Amazon because physical bookstores will not order your book from Amazon. They will only order it from another distributor, but your book will show up more prominently if it's part of the Amazon KDP program. So like when I help an author self-publish a book, we usually end up with 3 ISBNs. We have the Ingram print, the Ingram ebook, then we have the Amazon print and the Amazon ebook, and it's available in all 4 places. And I've discovered that if you walk into your local bookstore and say, hey, are you interested in carrying my book? One of the first things they will do is look up the ISBN and make sure that they don't get it from Amazon.
Yeah, they're going to want it to be distributed through Ingram.
Yeah, I prefer not to use Amazon anyways, but so it's okay to have 2 books with 2 different ISBN numbers and sell both?
Yep, because it's different editions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no loss in me uploading to Ingram?
Nope, not at all. Only gains.
It's not going to cost me any more right now.
It's going to cost, Ingram
it's like $25 or something.
It does. If you upload before tomorrow and use the code NANO, all capitals, you get free uploads.
But
And
I need the new ISBN number when I upload, right?
They're usually running some kind of special. And so what you could also do is look for ALLI, which is the Alliance of Independent Authors. They are almost always running a free setup at Ingram special. There's going to be somebody who has a free setup at Ingram special. And if not, it's like $25. It's not that bad.
Okay.
Kirsten, your smile always makes me so happy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you
I'm just sitting here thinking about my author page.
Good.
And wondering, I don't have a Facebook page that I'm using. I'm just sending all my posts to my author page, and I don't want to be on Facebook at all, really. Like, it stresses me out. I'm trying to use the groups, but will I ever get 100 followers on my author page if I don't use my personal page? Question mark.
I think you will. I think you will eventually. If nothing else, you let me know when you need to buy some ads, and Ashley and I will send you 100 followers.
Right on. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I would like to buy some ads too.
All right. Ashley, I got about 15 books placed yesterday, so I'll be sending you some photographs.
Oh my
gosh. We have some super cute little libraries, but we got distracted because we had to stop for snacks.
Well, snacks are essential.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And Nancy, you wanna run ads? Where are you going to direct them to, Nancy? To your website?
It's my Facebook. I have a page for the book on my website that was set up where they can pay directly, and I have an author page on Facebook.
So welcome back from breakout rooms, everybody. Nancy, stick around after our meeting for a sec so that we get the end of that question as well. I just want to remind everybody that you are going to get a replay email of this conversation tomorrow. It will also have links to all of our previous episodes. There's a Google Doc. The link will be in the email that you're going to get tomorrow. And Ashley does this amazing thing where she annotates all of the episodes so that you can actually scroll that Google Doc and go, hey, this is where, if you want to look about content buckets, go to this timestamp in this episode, and you can look at all of them. So we are so glad to be able to provide that to you as well. You're also going to get a link to Dusti Arab's resource page, which contains all of the resources that she mentioned during this call. And we are so glad that you guys enjoyed being zapped into breakout rooms and getting a chance to meet each other. By the way, I know we have Diane Zinna here tonight. If you are writing grief, you probably want to join Diane's Sunday grief writing sessions. They're really good. People really enjoy them. Ashley, what else do we need to wrap up with today?
I'm just glad Diane is here in person because, Diane, we have talked about how your grief writing workshops are such a great example of pulling together a community. We've been talking about this for many episodes. So if you are watching the replays of the calls, and we actually are suggesting this anew, even to people who have been around for a long time, you are going to hear things with new ears. Then, it's going to be a much different world than when you first started diving into these parts of platform building in October. Was it October or August, actually, Allison?
It's been
August.
It's been like 7.5 months since I counted.
Yeah. Yes, it was August. So go back, and like Allison said, you're going to get the master document with the timelines and the links. Sometimes the chat transcript is in there, sometimes the transcript of the whole thing, but there's always, for sure, the video replay. And Allison loves to just listen to the audio when she's driving, so that's a choice for people too. You can also go into the document and search comp authors and see every time we talked about it in more detail in every episode, and the minute when we talked about it.
So next week, we are doing Ask Us Anything. You're going to be able to submit your questions in advance and ask live questions, and we will cover just about anything you would like to cover. Yes, please do share the email with other writers as an invitation to join the bridge. Don't link them to the Google Doc directly. Forward them the email you get so that they can sign up and have like the whole context and everything. Dusti, thank you so much for being here today. Dusti, have you got a closing thought for us?
I'm just really encouraged by the level of community that you guys have put together, honestly. This is a phenomenal group. The breakout rooms were amazing. The format's great. It was just an absolute joy to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you everyone for honoring us with your time and with your attention. We are always so glad to have you here on the Writer's Bridge. You're going to get an email tomorrow. You can reply with questions for Ask Us Anything, and go ahead and unmute for our beautiful goodbye time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Allison and Ashley.
Thank you. Bye, Danielle.